People often ask questions like, what is Kenshi? Is it a survival RPG set in a dystopian post-apocalyptic world? Is it a town-building strategy sim where you can build anything you like? Is it a squad-based adventure game? How do I talk to women? Are you ever going to review Library of Ruina? These questions will probably be answered on this episode of VladePosting.
Do it, baby. Make it clean.
You fuck young boys, Valdez. Are you a madman?
As I just mentioned, Kenshi's got a lot of parts that converge into something spectacular. The developers clearly asked themselves a question of, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we made a samurai-themed post-apocalyptic RPG where you could play as a robot who can build a city, topple governments, and conquer everything? That is Kenshi. Misogynistic cultists that violently evangelize your sorry ass? That is Kenshi. Implicit world building with a top-notch environmental storytelling? That is Kenshi. It is such an incredibly complex game that never ceases to amaze you if you let it. Kinda like going to flu parties, if you think about it. Just like our lives, it doesn't have a set story. You're supposed to come up with one to keep you going. Do you want to build a castle? Go ahead. Join the slave-mongering society of samurais and help them fight in turf war? No problem. You can strive to become the best warrior in the world, or be an assassin who makes their living by illegal means. Or you can be a trader, coursing from town to town, looking for trinkets and baubles to buy low and sell high. Be a bounty hunter, scavenger, drug dealer. If you can imagine something, you can play it in Kenshi. It is you who comes up with the story that fills you with determination, and then you go out there and explore. Exploration is the name of the game, so I'll try to avoid spoilers to the best of my ability as I navigate you through the world so you wouldn't feel all that lost. This review was made because where there's Kenshi, there's also a lot of passive aggression coming from all the people that either refunded the game because it wasn't the right fit, or they vouched to never touch it again under no circumstances because it's too hard or convoluted. And to avoid becoming such a joyless fuck, I've decided to take it up on me to guide you through the most basic steps of the game, so this review will be more of a tutorial in nature. A tutorial that I read back, and it looked a lot like a guide to survive a haphazardly arranged trip to Africa. So if you're planning to do that as well, keep watching, this gets educational. I know that there are many people who use exploits in gaming, and those cats probably cheat in tax declarations and their relationship too, but don't you worry. This review has none of that. So, no crazy ideas, just your classic Sunday school Kenshi. Anyway, let's talk about choosing your own beginning. And yes, we'll start with the character creation page, because this is where things get pretty wild. It's pretty impressive for an indie game and very progressive to include so many races that are mostly trash. And I haven't even told you yet how racist the devs are, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. In Kenshi, there's a list of scenarios you can choose from. You can pick one that suits your playstyle, and just like in choosing the right college to go to, there are wrong answers that will haunt you until you go bald from all the stress. So we got Wanderer, Wandering Trader, Holy Sword, Cannibal Hunters, Hive Exile, Son of a Captain, Slaves, Rock Bottom. Well, you can fucking read, right? Point being, there are a lot of scenarios that will heavily impact your playstyle. If you want to have an easy start, you could pick either Freedom Seekers and just immediately sell all the shit they start with. Because you don't have to start building a base if you pick that scenario, plus they have a ton of food which will save you a lot of cats early on. By cats, I don't mean the musical or the animal. Cats are the local currency. Or if you're a hardcore Kingdom Hearts fan like me, you could pick Nobodies, which is basically the same as the previous scenario, but your characters will have almost nothing, not even their hearts. Which, just like telling me your social security number isn't a problem, it's an opportunity. Because in this scenario, you have extra people to use as workforce or a meat shield. However, both Freedom Seekers and Nobodies spawn in a couple of random locations, and some of them are outside of the border zone, which is a newbie area where you can sort of feel safe, and we really want to start there for the purposes of staying alive a little longer. I will not bother discussing the rest of scenarios, since they start you off somewhere weird, or give you troublesome faction relations. And having a beef with a faction can seriously fuck your shit up, so let's avoid crossing the wrong people and be a law-abiding citizen. Boring, but safe, kinda like, you know, living in Belgium, I guess. To reiterate, if you really want to pick something that isn't Wanderer, I'd recommend choosing Freedom Seekers or Nobodies, because having multiple characters means you have a bigger safety net. But Wanderer provides you with a classic Kenshi experience, and it's the most balanced difficulty-wise, because you only have to worry about one character to begin with. Because controlling a group of retards can be a handful. So let's be single. Just like in real life, huh? Life imitates art, I guess. Okay, so we pick Wanderer. Meow then, let's proceed to the character creation, because in Kenshi it's more than just choosing the right skin color that would have dictated your difficulty setting if you lived in America, for example. Races in Kenshi have a lot of innate characteristics which you can't change later, so one mistake can cost you your playthrough and your hairline, like we previously discussed. Human. This one here is the obligatory and truly basic bitch race. It has two flavors, Greenlander and Scorchlander. And I'm not going to tell you which is which, it's an exercise in how politically correct you are. Anyway, the former has no weaknesses, which is always nice. The latter is more useful in late game due to their smithing skill. Bonuses to stealth and athletics are good shit, but still, Scorchlanders aren't without weaknesses, so make of that what you will. Both types have 100 HP per body part. Body part alert! Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy! You and I, we have to talk about the limb system that is Kenshi trademark right fucking now. Get this, Kenshi doesn't have a single universal HP meter, which is increased with every quote-unquote level you get. Oh no 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 no. There are no damage sponges or level 70 characters that can one-shot you. It's not that kind of a game. Check this out. Every body part has a certain race-dependent level of health. As in every arm, every leg, your chest, stomach and head, they all have different HP meters. Hits to your limbs are generally non-lethal, except for losing enough blood, that'll kill you. And damaging said limb will lead to a temporary or permanent disability of this limb. Hits to vital areas like head, chest or stomach are extremely dangerous and will likely lead to your death. Bad news, right? All this means that even if you lose a leg to a feral creature, but manage to bandage yourself up and crawl to safety of a local town, you can potentially survive and continue playing as this character. Not to mention, this fateful encounter will make your freshly disabled character stronger and better. General rule of Kenshi is what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Now let's get back to races again. Who's next on the docket? Skeleton. As in, the things that live inside us and can play trombone professionally. They got ridiculously durable body parts, but it's a pain to fix them because you have to find repair kits, and the local Radio Shack has been foreclosed for a while ever since the bombs fell. What else? Oh yeah, these Terminator-looking motherfuckers don't require food, which makes your early game even easier. Other downsides to playing this infernal machine? Why yes! The Holy Nation attacks skeletons on sight, because being a skeleton is a sin, same as kissing your uncle on the mouth or not washing your hands before dinner. So you will have to zigzag around their area, which cuts down on a huge part of a newbie-friendly zones you could otherwise fuck around. So choose this calcium-rich fella at your own peril. I mean, do you really want to look at this bony ass the entire time you play this stupid game? Ho ho! Speaking of bony asses. Hive. Oh, these fellas come from a country where Google products don't work and you have to use VPN for everything. I always buy rice hat to complete my set. I don't know why I have this urge, and you can't tell me without being racist, so let's just roll with it. Aside from being terrible drivers and regularly appearing on many Live Leak Factory videos, hivers have a great reduced chance of being hit in the stomach. But this also means they're gonna get hit everywhere else more frequently, like your dick. I mean, if you're into cock and ball torture, this race sure is for you. I don't see any other upsides to it. Well, okay, they have 0.5 hunger rate because they're so low on the food chain that the only sustenance they can usually get is a wild bat, and I've heard that even that may lead to some wildly unforeseen circumstances. But that's just hearsay. I trust the CCP completely. Wait, what am I saying? Do me a favor, next time you're watching this review, play a drinking game and take a shot each time I use the word racist. Anyway, you don't really have to care about hunger with these drones, but if you play them, especially if you pick soldier, you're in for a world of pain. Trust me. Don't even bother. They're trash. Now let me talk about someone who's a lot better. And I don't mean you, you're not just better, you're amazing. But I had someone else in mind. Shaq. If it looks like a Klingon and speaks like a Klingon, it's probably a Klingon. Best fighters all around. They have been injecting Tide Pods in their body parts, which gave them 125 health points and made them blue. Yes, I'm afraid they just blew themselves. And if you thought your pals VladePosting race jokes were bad, man, do I have a surprise for you, because these guys are hardcore racists. They won't outright attack you, but they can sure hurt your feelings by calling you names like Flatskin, Greenhorn, Picked at High School, etc. It's like taking a piss in a urinal and the guy next to you watches your every move, all the while snickering to himself. No wait, by hardcore racist I actually meant United Cities. Their city heroes will torture you to no end with their racist undertones if you dare to step in their towns. No wait, by hardcore racist I actually meant the Holy Nation, who will enslave you because they think you're in dire need for some redemption. Praise Okran. No wait, by hardcore racist I actually meant, you know what they say? Life imitates art. Anyway, the downside to their beefcake bodies is that they have a higher hunger rate, which may prove to be a problem in the early game. More on hunger later. Now let's settle this once and for all. Who's the best solo capable character that you can pick at the start? I mean, later on when your group gets larger, you can pretty much hire anyone you want, but this here is the most important choice of your playthrough. Let's rule out the hire workers and soldiers. We don't need accidents on the road or in a workshop which we'll build while definitely following all the OSHA requirements. And that leaves us with Greenlander, Scorchlander, Skeleton, Hive Prince, or Shaq. Shaqs are cool, but way too hungry for my taste. Plus, I can't roleplay as someone who's taller than me, so that's a pass. Hive Princes are probably the most effective hivers since they have 80 HP on their limbs. Lots of skill bonuses, but that minus 20% of strength is hard to overlook. Their HP bar, just like their dicks, is so big that if I laid it on a keyboard, it would go all the way from A to Z. Hard pass on Princes. Skeletons are not only spooky, they also get their asses handed to them on sight when you travel across the Holy Nation. Like I said, that cuts out a big chunk of newbie zones. True, they don't require food, which is an important resource in this game and in most African countries, but I feel that their reliance on repair kits, which are expensive and hard to come by, outweighs their usefulness. As a newbie character for your first foray into the vast dystopian and ridiculously racist world of Kenshi, Skeleton gets a no from me, swiping left on the bony fella. And then there were two. And it's not a competition between black versus white, you can easily make a dark-skinned Greenlander if you want to. I wonder if I get demonetized if I say that the white race is superior because they're more all-rounded and don't have a penalty for strength. Hell, I'll make it even worse by saying this. Scorchlanders, those dark fellows, are better at running, sneaking around, stealing and thieving. What did the developers mean by this, I wonder? But yeah, all jokes aside, Scorchlanders are better suited for smithing and thieving, and Greenlanders are for growing crops and researching stuff. I don't have an inherent bias for or against either. But there's a critical mistake the developer made in that they made Scorchlander shorter than Greenlander, and I don't really like playing as a vertically challenged person, so let's pick Greenlander. And oh boy, we're finally playing Kenshi. Now hold the phone, all that talk just to play Sims? You're goddamn right, bucko. This is Sims in a post-apocalyptic wasteland where everyone wants to either kill you, eat you, enslave you, or indoctrinate with racism. Isn't it awesome? I mean, now I can play Sims without worrying about my masculinity, which I have to keep in check every time I play Nancy Drew or Life is Strange. Yep. Still heterosexual. Damn. But yeah, similarities eye-striking, I know. That's why I won't be covering the interface, because it's so intuitive even my dog can understand it. So if you feel that you need these buttons explained to you, then I'm sure you've got more chromosomes than I do. Congrats! Now, leveling in Kenshi is done differently. It's not traditional earn XP to level up system. It's based on grinding more than anything else. You use an attribute and you increase it over time. Easy, right? There are 4 core attributes in the game. Strength, that determines the ability to use weapons and to carry more stuff. Dexterity, that affects speed of attacks, blocks and rate of fire. Toughness, that determines damage resistance, wood deterioration speed and martial arts damage. And finally, Perception, that governs accuracy with ranged weapons. Aside from the core attributes, Kenshi's got the following skills. Weapon skills, combat skills, thievery skills, athletic skills, science skills, and trade skills. We won't go into detail over those as they are self-explanatory. Now, I've been mentioning hunger here and there, and now it's time to talk about it in detail. As many of you know, the biggest challenge in the life of every bachelor is the need to feed yourself. Not figuring out how taxes work or how to tie a necktie, it's fucking cooking. No one told me it's that difficult. I don't want to spend every day by the stove and cook whatever the shit my gut feels like having today. I want to play video games, god damn it! Same rules apply here. You have a hunger meter of 300 and the real fun starts when it drops below 200, because at that point your stats begin to deteriorate. You won't be able to run properly or fight like your life depends on it. Hunger means essentially that everything that you do will start to slowly decay. Granted, it takes forever to trickle down to critical levels, but don't let it fall to 0, you have to be mindful of that. Thankfully, if your character has any food on them, they will automatically eat it when they get hungry enough to do so. And word of advice here, you don't want to keep your food on you at all times, because bandits steal it when they defeat you, which will happen a lot. In civilized lands, it's a lot easier to find a bar and buy a bowl of rice, so you don't have to keep it on you like a DoorDash delivery guy. Best food you can get is dried meat, rice and gohan respectively. Remember that. Enough about hunger, let's talk about something else. About how to grind your stats. Which is the most important thing in the entire game, so listen up. I've reread the next few paragraphs and realized that they are strikingly similar to a book, the title of which I'm not going to say out of fear to get a cease and desist order from the author. So, for no reason in particular, I'm going to call my strat Fight Club. Catchy, right? I totally came up with this all on my own. So here's the plan. I'm going to assume that you're not a total waste of biomass and can get some money at the start of the game, be it from selling the gear of your companions or rendering the stuff you found out in the wilds. The reason I'm asking you this is because I want you to get a backpack and fill it with as much ore as you need to overload your character, then put it into your inventory so it doesn't even decrease the weight of the ore you got. Now look over your strength stat in the character window, and you'll see you're gaining so much percentage strength XP by walking or fighting. Totally not an exploit, guys, trust me. Your next step would be fucking around the hub and finding some starving bandits and, this is going to sound weird but roll with me here, get your shit beat up by them. It's great if you get some melee skill gain or a strength and dexterity uptick, but getting beat up is essential for ranking up your toughness. Depending on how early you started doing it, and by it I mean my plan, not masturbating, you may find that these motherfuckers are brutal and you stand no chance. Or maybe you looked around first and got some equipment that helped you sustain the total beatdown. In both cases, your primary goal is to survive the encounter safely. Once you've endured 2, 3 or 4 fights like this, you should be good to go in terms of toughness. To quote an anonymous author, a guy who came to a fight club for the first time, his ass was a wad of cookie dough. After a few weeks, he was carved out of wood. Now believe me when I say this, Kenshi is brutally honest about how you can almost literally build your character. It's probably the first game I've played where if you start to fight with drunkards, bandits and any other usually hostile faction through dialogue, it usually benefits you by making these otherwise foolish dialogue choices that get you in a fight. I am usually playing high charisma characters, the purpose of which is to avoid fighting altogether with my irresistible ear-bending charm, but not here, not in Kenshi. Here I'm cosplaying Russell Crowe, who's having a rough day and looking for a pint. Someone will get that reference. If you plan on living longer than 5 minutes of total playtime, I'd strongly recommend you get acquainted with the recruiting mechanic, which is really simple but super helpful. Being weak is less risky if you have more characters under your control. Kinda like joining a clique in school so that you won't be beaten up by jocks for the umpteenth time. If some of you may think that I'm doing a little bit of self-revelation here, I can retort by saying
No shit.
Anyway, having several characters can be the difference between life and death. So how do you start making friends in this apocalyptic paradise? Simple enough. We've got recruits. Generic recruits, unique recruits, and slave recruits, to be more precise. Generic recruits and most of unique recruits can be found in bars, which is how the game subliminally tells you that drinking is cool and you should always do it until one day you drink one tequila too many and realize that you had a business meeting at 9 AM at Marriott's hotel, but you woke up at noon hangover. And if some may think that I'm doing a bit of self-revelation here, I can retort by saying that slave recruits can be found at slave markets and bought for money. Got it? Cool. Now enough about me. Here's the dealio. Some unique recruits will join you for free. For example, there's a town called Mongrel, home of King Beep, which is smack dab in the middle of Fog Islands, where you can recruit 3 characters for absolutely nothing. Problem is how you get there, because they don't call them Fog Islands for nothing. You can't stop there, this is bad country. Well, not bad, but Fogmen, members of a dead hive that possess a particular appetite for human flesh, so if you get captured alive, you're quickly going to become a samovar of red liquid. That's just one town, mind you. You can find other companions in other places because the map of this game is super fucking big. It's not as big as Daggerfall, of course, but it's up there. It's up there. If you walk across the map in Kenshi, it's going to take you 8 hours. Daggerfall takes 69 hours. Kenshi's map is static, which means it was artistically crafted by hand, which makes it extremely detailed and nuanced. Different regions, different domains, different biomes, different relief, different factions, you name it, Kenshi's got it all. Speaking of comrades, there's a particular useful strategy of making one character go into stealth before entering combat and he will resuscitate all of your characters that were knocked out by the enemy. Otherwise, they'll slip into a nice and comfortable coma and you'll have to carry their sorry asses to the nearest way station. Or, their unconscious body will be found by a slaver who will then enslave you and make you work for him. Here's another demonetizing tidbit for you. Slavery is nice. Kenshi has lots of mechanics to a slave lifestyle. You can mine ore, you can level your stats, you can cause ruckus and rebel against your masters and seek safe haven in somewhere like Singapore, you name it. You must have already picked up on the fact that you can do a lot of shit in this game. And it's true. If you can think of it, you can play it in Kenshi. So let me spitball a couple of scenarios you can pursue in your playthrough if you're an aimless youth that's thinking about joining the army. Scenario A. This is where your troubles begin, since you need some toughness to explore the world further without worrying about losing your limbs and to fight a greater range of enemies. Once you get your stats ranging in the 30s, you'll be good to go. This scenario is essential for having a grand old time in the game, so I suggest you start with this strat. Scenario B. Base building is not just optional, it's balls to the wall, frustrating, soul destroying, and your first base is going to suffer from whole array of troubles. Be sure of that. You will need a lot of building materials, a lot of money and manpower to kickstart your lonely outpost. 10 to 15 people is the sweet spot for starting a base, and you'll need 50 to 100,000 cats in your pockets to bankroll your small settlement in the desert. Be warned, you'll be constantly raided, so your outpost must have super buff dudes from Scenario A. Scenario C. I did tell you that the map of Kenshi is static, didn't I? That means it's full of places to explore and absorb the environmental storytelling bits. First of all, you need to divide the whole map into quadrants to make it easier for you. Southeast is the nightmare fuel, Mexico-styled guerrilla rapist nightmare you need to steer clear from. Some of the most dangerous things are located there. Southwest is also difficult in terms of what kind of shit you can find there, so I would advise against exploring it at the start. Northwest has Lost Armory and a Deadland Workshop. I will not elaborate on these. Just know that Northwest isn't the most dangerous part of the world, so you can start your scavenging mission there. Avoid Fog Islands like plague though. Similarly, Northeast has some civilization in there, there's a forgotten lab and another area worth exploring, so there you go. Scenario D. As explained in the previous scenario, the world is vast and it contains hidden treasures and snippets of lore, which can be super cool to read and learn what happened to the world and where did all the races come from. The world is rich and oozes charisma, and if you let it whisper to you, you'll learn a lot and probably go a little crazy for Kenshi. Scenario E. As mentioned before, you can start the game as a slave and toil away in the mines of Holy Nation. Kenshi's got an incredibly detailed slavery system, so I recommend giving it a go at least once just for the kick of it. Scenario F. Now, if you want to make your life more similar to one in North Korea, I have just the scenario for you. Just mine, extract the resources and slowly work towards retirement. I do not recommend this path since it's a horrible way to play Kenshi. It gets you rich though, so that's all I'm saying. And if you're still unsure what to do in the game, let me quickly run a couple more scenarios by you. Find and loot ruins, scavenge battlegrounds, hunt beasts, train animals, become a drug dealer or a trader, buy low and sell high, build a sustainable settlement, topple governments and factions, become a slaver, unlock research options, wander around, set up a shop in town, and buy houses. These are just some of the things I came up when thinking about what to do in the game. Imagine having more options in the video game than in real life. Oof. Something clearly went wrong with our society. Oh well, time to forget myself for another year in this best game ever made. It's a sandbox with a pick your poison kind of system. It's not suitable for everyone, but it sure can hit the spot if you're into a choose your own adventure kind of treat. It's like learning how to ride a bike. Super difficult at first, but when you reach a certain spot, it will become extremely enjoyable due to sheer depth of content you can find in the game. It's a rare case of a game that gets better the more you play it, and I can't recommend it enough. And sure, there are many games out there that deserve your attention. Cyberpunk, Witcher, Mass Effect, Baldur's Gate, Gothic, but they're just one adventure. Kenshi, though, can be a million. Thanks for watching.